This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airways of ESPN Radio. That's 98.7 FM in New York City. That's 710 ESPN in L.A. And, of course, nationwide over the airways of ESPN Radio. Sirius XM style, Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Got a jam-packed show coming your way this afternoon. Definitely going to touch on the trading deadline in Major League Baseball, the winners, and the winners as far as I'm concerned, Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers. Pay attention to all of that stuff. Definitely that. Bring up the Houston Astros as well. Can't ignore that. We'll definitely be talking about that just a little bit. Jason Garrett, his comments about Ezekiel Elliott, Roger Goodell, commissioner for the National Football League, and his comments about teams literally tanking seasons or tanking games or whatever. We'll talk about all of that and then some right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. Plus, of course, some NBA stuff that y'all want to get into. The Kyrie Irving stuff has not stopped. I fully recognize that, and I have no problem with broaching that subject. LeVar Ball and him continuously finding himself in the news. Is it about him? Or is the media to blame for some of this other stuff? We could get into all of that and then some. But the first order of business is Jamal Adams for the New York Jets and his comments and the comments that he made in regards to pretty much being willing to die on the football field. And I'm paraphrasing here, but that's essentially what he said. He said in an ideal world, his preference would be to die on a football field. And because he said that, there are an awful lot of people that are incredibly appalled by what he had to say. The ex-wife of Justin Strelick, who used to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you remember, he was suffering from CTE and committed suicide by driving his truck into a tractor-trailer, oncoming traffic. Drove the truck head first into a tractor trailer and ultimately killed himself. She talked about how the ex-wife of Mr. Justin Strelzik talked about her two kids, how they're still suffering to this very day, how one of her children had to seek therapy because of thoughts of committing suicide, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And she talked about how she felt like Jamal Adams basically bleeped on her ex-husband's grave. Respectfully, I would tell you I think that's a bit excessive. I disagree with her. And I think that people out there are taking Jamal Adams' comments too literally. The fact of the matter is that when you look at what he had to say, okay, you can understand it. Do I have a problem with it? Yes, but I don't have a problem with him. He's young. He has that kind of passion for the sport of football. He called the football field the perfect place to die. He said it with Roger Goodell, the commissioner for the National Football League, sitting directly next to him. And, if we have that sound from Jamal Adams, please let me know. But I got to tell you something. I think people are taking it entirely too differently. He says, quote, I can speak for a lot of guys that play the game. We live and breathe it. This is what we're so passionate about. Literally, if I had a perfect place to die, I would die on the field. And that's not a lie. But again, I'm all about making the game safer. Listen to what he was saying. And then you're going to have individuals like Martellus Bennett, tight end for the Green Bay Packers, that spoke out not necessarily against him, but he basically spoke out about how he didn't agree with his comments. And guess what? Martellus Bennett was not wrong. He's a veteran in the league, has been there for years. He's coming from a more seasoned place. And that's his entitlement. I mean, that's what happens when you're educated, when you're older. Martellus Bennett, look, football is great, but I ain't dying for this bleep. He's absolutely right. But that's a man who's older, educated, got a family. He's wise beyond, socially conscientious. Of course, we understand that. We know Martellus Bennett is right. Jamal Adams is straight out of LSU. Football is everything to him. And he wasn't trying to take shots at somebody suffering from CTE, nor was he inviting the consequences of having CTE. What he's saying is the equivalent of what Fernando Vargas said as a boxer before he fought Oscar De La Hoya or Felix Trinidad, how he would die, that he'd be willing to die in a ring. We've heard plenty of fighters say that. I've even heard basketball players like Allen Iverson talk about it's the sport I live, eat, and breathe and want to die for. We've heard football players say that before. Why is everybody taking Jamal Adams and what he had to say so literally? You have that kind of passion for the sport. It means that much to you. And because it means that much to you, if you had a place to rest in peace and you can manipulate it, that's what he's saying. He's not saying that I want to suffer with mood swings and I want to suffer through the nauseousness and the headaches and all the things that come with it. He's not speaking literally. He's speaking in generalities. If I had to die, this is what I'd want to die doing. Folks taking their stuff so literally sometimes. It's his right as a youngster to feel the way that he feels. Is it the wisest thing to say? No. But it's not bleeping on the grave of Justin Strelzik or any other player who's gone from us because of the catastrophic circumstances of CTE. That's just not true. So it's something worth considering and something worth thinking about. 866-729-ESPN is the number to call. That's 866-729-3776. The other subject I think it's important for us to touch on is LaVar Ball. Yet again, it is necessary. Because now that we've learned that he got a female referee removed, that when she was replaced by the male referee, he had something to do with that Adidas allowed that to happen. You know, LaVar Ball is in the news for all the wrong reasons. But I'm also going to take it a step further because I want to touch on something Sarah Spain, my colleague here at ESPN, touched on. Because a lot of people had a problem with what she said. I'm going to tell you how I feel about it and why. But I want you to wait for it. What she said is going to be very interesting, and I'm warning y'all right now, a lot of people are going to be highly insulted by it. I'll tell you what I feel and why. Up next, you're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. Look, I know there's someone out there who had a bad night's sleep. You know why I know this? Because I used to be just like you. I deprived myself of proper rest because of my chronic snoring. But guess what? That was before I tried the revolutionary device called Zeeper. Listen, Zeeper's a game changer. I'm telling you right now, if you use it, think about this. If you get good sleep, you feel better. You have better energy. But if you don't, you feel blah, you feel tired, you're just lagging through the days. Zeeper, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff because it's going to ensure that you get great sleep. It's going to cut down on that snoring. It's going to help you sleep better. And it's going to eradicate that blah feeling that keeps us down all day long. Let me say it again, Zeeper. It's the only snoring solution of its kind. And if you are someone you know snores, you need to get a Zeeper. I want you to go to Zeeper.com. It's pronounced Zeeper, and it's spelled Z-Y-P-P-A-H. You know why it's easy to remember? Because it's Happy Z spelled backwards. So go to Zeeper.com right now and get a Zeeper. Please tell everybody you know to get a Zeeper. Remember, it's Zeeper. That's Z-Y-P-P-A-H. Zeeper. Go to Zeeper.com and get the great sleep you need and the great sleep you deserve. Wait until you hear what my colleague Sarah Spain had to say on Around the Horn yesterday. You do not want to miss it. Stick around. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm talking about Sarah Spain, my colleague here at ESPN. Based out of Chicago. Does a great job on the radio for us on the weekends. Does a great job covering various sports. Does a great job with ESPN Chicago. Great job with ESPNW. She was on Around the Horn yesterday. And she said something that gave me cause to pause. She was talking about African-American fathers. She's not a black woman. But she broached this subject because of LeVar Ball and his histrionics and how he's conducted himself and how he's come across to the viewing and listening public. Before you respond, listen to what she had to say, and then I'll tell you what I thought of it. Go ahead, Nuno.
Clearly has an issue with women. And for us to continue making excuses because we think he's a great father for being there and caring about his kids, I think that's an incredibly low bar for fatherhood and actually insulting to black fathers that that's all we expect of them. We need to have realistic conversations about his flaws.
Wow. She talked about it being an insult to black fathers because they have low expectations about LeVar. I took a step back, and you know what conclusion I drew, ladies and gentlemen? Sarah Spain's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. By and large, as a dad myself, I'm here to tell you, most African-American men who are fathers love their children and do a damn good job of taking care of their kids. There are some who ain't worth 2 cents, that give new meaning to deadbeat, that are awful and reprehensible and should be ashamed of themselves for bringing a child into this world and not living up to the responsibilities of taking care of that child. And not just monetarily. But most black fathers I know, just like most white fathers I know, just like most Latino fathers I know, love their children daily and exhaust means and measures to provide and take care of their families. And there's this narrative out there about black men. And the narrative is so bad because you hear about deadbeats. And I'm here to tell you right now, by and large, it's usually because, or sometimes it's because the man doesn't happen to be with the mother of his child. We live in a different day and time. And even though marriage is the ultimate sanctuary as far as I'm concerned, and something we should all aspire to have, if you ain't lucky enough to have it, you ain't lucky enough to have it. Look at the divorce rate. And that ain't just in the African-American community. Look at the divorce rate in the white community. Look at the divorce rate in a variety of communities. Whether you were married and divorced or never been married before, there are a whole bunch of children in this world whose parents are not together. I consider it 2 separate issues. I'm not married. I'm a father. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed of it either because I'm not a father. I'm a daddy. And most African-American men I know who are fathers are daddies. So when Sarah Spain comes out and she highlights the fact that we need to elevate the standards and stop giving this man a pass, meaning LeVar Ball, and we really need to have a great discussion about it, she's absolutely right. Because even I have been guilty of finding myself feeling the need to come to the defense of LeVar Ball because Lonzo Ball and LaMelo Ball and his children are such good kids. And I'm giving him credit for it, and it's not that he doesn't deserve it, but it's that we speak of it like it's such an aberration. So as a result, it almost gives tacit approval to his histrionics because, my God, at least we could say he's a good father. And let's not completely denigrate him or his actions because he's such a good father. And what Sarah Spain is saying is no. Okay, you're a great dad. Okay, you paid the bills. Okay, you provided for your children. You put a roof over their head, clothes on their back, food on their plates. You raised them to be good kids. Congratulations to you. What the hell does that have to do with how you're acting now, covering the AAU tournament, covering or coaching in an AAU tournament? Pulling guys off the court because you don't like calls that officials are making. Calling out a female official saying she needs to stay in her lane. telling her to go someplace and having her replaced and having Adidas and its Summer League sign off on that. Sarah Spain is right. She's absolutely right. She's challenging us as not just a culture, but as a society to maintain our level of standards and not to diminish them in any way just to appease an individual who may not deserve it. Chris Rock had his comment, I think it was Bigger and Black if I remember correctly, but he sat up there and talked about, you're a man, you out there, I take care of my kids. What you want, a cookie? You're supposed to take care of them. Supposed to. Sarah Spain said the same daggone thing, just not as funny as Chris Rock was. I have no problem with what she said. None. A matter of fact, I want to applaud her for saying it because she's saying something that most folks don't have the courage to say in this day and age. Don't lean on this narrative. The narrative might be false. There's plenty of men out there being good fathers. What does that have to do if you're acting like a damn fool? That doesn't absolve you. Being a good parent doesn't absolve you from other actions and transgressions. You're supposed to be a good parent, and you probably are. That's the case with LeVar Ball. I happen to genuinely like him. Obnoxious behavior and all. I genuinely like him. But I do not in any way approve of what I've seen him do over the last few weeks. To me, telling the world that you average 2 points a game in college, but you could beat Michael Jordan or you could beat Charles Barkley, I mean, that's just laughable. Or that Lonzo Ball is better than Steph Curry right now, that's laughable. But he did tell us Lonzo was going number 2 overall to the Lakers. He did tell me his son would end up with the Lakers. And he was right about that. He did say his son could ball. He was right about that. He did say probably two of his 3 sons would go pro. After watching LaMelo drop 36 the other day in Summer League in the AAU, he might be right. The other stuff, not so much. But that's harmless. But pulling kids off the court because you don't like the officiating, taking your ball and going home per se, he's wrong. Talking about a female official that way, he's wrong. Period. And by the way, sitting there talking about you could do anything you want with your kids, you're absolutely right. But not everybody else's kids. The other players that play on that team with his son LaMelo, they didn't want to come off the court. They might have wanted to play ball. He needs to be thinking about them more than he's thinking about himself. There isn't a professional or a collegiate or a high school athlete on the planet that has not been exposed to bad officiating. So what? Play through it. That's what you're supposed to do. He didn't do that. But Sarah Spain is right, y'all. She's absolutely right. And I don't expect to hear a word against what she had to say. Because she made a damn good point. Don't lower our standards for anybody. Black men are indeed good fathers. In a lot more cases than not. What do we want, a cookie? Ain't that what we supposed to do? 866-729-ESPN is the number to call up. That's 866-729-3776. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Back here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. To the phones we go. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Let's go to Brandon. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, B. How are you, man?
Well, I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm good. Thank you for calling. What's up?
Oh, no problem. That's what's up. Now, I want to touch you with 2 topics. I'm going to start with LeVar Ball.
Go ahead.
The stuff he's saying that he does with this latest situation, you can't talk about women like that. You can't consistently use the word she over over and over while giving a woman criticism.
Yep.
Now, this isn't LeVar Ball's fault, but I feel like since mankind has started, it's like you can't really use the word she so much without criticizing him, and that's not his fault, but we live in such a masculine world that women are still belittled like that. So when you talk about ladies, you got to understand that, like, women is precious. That lady probably has some children. You know, you grew up in a house with 5 women. That's one of the last.
Well, here's where you and I. Let me stop you. Here's where we disagree. There's nothing wrong. Listen, she's a she. She's not a he. So he's not being disrespectful by saying she. Where he's being disrespectful is by saying she should stay in her place. That's where he's being disrespectful. Just saying she, like if you're talking about her, you're talking about her. She's a she, not a he. It would be disrespectful if he's called a he. Okay, so let's not go there. He just shouldn't be saying stay in your place and then getting her removed because he doesn't like the way she's doing her job. That's not his place. That's where he crossed the line. Go ahead and make your second point.
Well, I want to touch on this a little more and then I'll get to it. But with the whole she
you don't
thing,
have all day to take care of it, to get to it, brother. You got a whole bunch of calls on this line, but go ahead.
Okay, now with Chris Paul, remember when that female referee came in? He said she one time, and we know Chris Paul is a man. He was giving legitimate criticism to that referee, and he said she one time, and there was an overreaction about that.
I don't recall.
I'm just saying. You don't recall?
I don't.
Oh, all right. I'm
go to your next point, bro. There's other calls on the line. Go ahead.
I'm about to appeal to your ethos and bring that into question as well as your emotions. Now, first thing earlier today,
my man, was that really necessary? You're about to appeal to my ethos and do all that. You done wasted 30 seconds, man. Come on now, get to your point, bro. Come on.
I'm trying to get it out. Okay, now you said the Dodgers should get to the World Series at least, or have a great chance of winning it, which I agree with you. 40 games above 500, most definitely. But your Yankees just made some moves. They brought in Jaime Garcia. They brought in Sonny Gray. Now, what if it's New York and L.A.? I know I'm getting hypothetical right now, but what if it's them in the World Series?
Well, that's what I just said. I said it this morning on First Take that, the way it's looking right now, it could be the Yankees and the Dodgers on a collision course, and I'm going with the Yankees over Kershaw in a Game 7.
Oh, I didn't know you said all that.
Yes,
I know
I
you
did.
brought both of them up, but you didn't bring up the scenario of them actually playing.
Oh, well, you wasn't listening because that's exactly what I did. Now you ran out of time. I got to go to get to some other callers. I appreciate the call, Brandon. Thank you. Let's go to Chris in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Chris?
Stephen A. Appreciate you taking my call.
No problem, bro.
Just
go
real
ahead.
Quick. All right, Stephen A. Just real quick. I want to touch on what Sarah Spain said.
Yep.
I believe it was yesterday, and what you touched on. Like yourself, Stephen A., I'm a single father. I'm 29 years old. I have a little girl who's 5. So for what she said, and I agree with what you said, and she's absolutely correct. But Stephen A., going back even further than that, like, that's nothing new, though, Stephen A., that we've always had lower standards for African-American men. But like you mentioned on numerous occasions, that it's not just us, that it's not just African-American men who don't take care of their children. Just obviously there's white American, there's Latino America. I mean, there's everyone who doesn't do that. So it's not just us. And for her to say that, I think she was absolutely correct. And we need to have higher standards. And what Max touched on today on First Take about when he brought up the whole Chris Rock quote about guy basically making fun of what he said on the stand-up about black fathers not taking care of their children is like, oh, the ones who do take care of it, like, what do you want, a cookie? Like, you're supposed to do that. And she dives a little deeper into it, Stephen A., but I just wanted to touch on that and get your perspective.
She did a hell of a
like
job. She did a hell of a job. She made a very, very valid point with what she's saying. And if we're true to what we're saying, that the narrative is false, that far more African-American fathers and far more fathers, period, are being the dads to their children that they're supposed to be, then she's absolutely right in pointing out how we shouldn't hesitate to hold LeVar Ball accountable as opposed to letting him off the hook because him being a good father is some sort of aberration. She talked about us needing to have a discussion about that, and Sarah Spade is absolutely right.
She's absolutely right. Like I mentioned to you yesterday, Stephen, I know you got to go, about the whole AAU thing. But what was more alarming was that the parents are allowing their children to play for a guy, I guess, who's setting a bad example for their children. I mean, that's a debate for another day, but that's the scary part about it is that he's giving out the wrong impression to other children outside of LaMelo, Lonzo, and LiAngelo.
That's true, and acting like he's not because, you're encouraging kids, you can do whatever you want to do. Everybody doesn't get to do what they want to do. That's not true. Everybody doesn't get to do what they want to do. It's a false narrative to put out there that everybody gets to do what they want to do. Well, guess what? LeVar Ball wanted $1 billion from Nike, Adidas, or Reebok. Did he get it? No. Everybody doesn't get to do what they want to do, particularly when you have your hand out for somebody else's cash. You have to acquiesce to some degree, and that's the kind of message people need to understand because it's real, and there's no way around that. Appreciate the call, bro. Thank you, Chris. 866-729-ESPN, Ray in Queens. Talk to me.
Okay. How you doing today, bro?
I'm all right. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, man. I totally agree with your colleague Sarah. I think LeVar Ball. Don't get me wrong. I salute him as a father.
So do I.
I salute him as a father, but I also think that he's an idiot sometimes with the things that come out of his mouth. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, I also blame the media a lot because you correct me if I'm wrong. I never ever seen a father, African American, white father, no kind of father, get this kind of media coverage, and their son is the number 2 pick in the draft and got drafted by the Lakers, and he gets more media attention than his son. Because
he gets more media attention than his son because he's the one that instigated the coverage of his son by saying the things that he said. Even though we knew Lonzo Ball could play, he wasn't getting this kind of shine until LeVar Ball started talking about his son.
And that's my point. Even though LeVar Ball started talking about him, that I felt like more of the coverage should have been on him because I watched him in UCLA, man, and I watched him in the summer league, man, and he didn't put in some work. But everything is all about his father, and all the nonsense that he said. But I think all that's entertainment, like you said, with the beating Barkley and the Shaq and all. I think that's all entertainment. That's fun and well. But what he did to that female referee, and I'm not going to say what he did, what Adidas did, because Adidas allowed him to say what he said, and then they did what they did. That's totally on them. She should not have been removed from that game, and they totally embarrassed her by doing that.
Well, you're right. I appreciate the call, Ray. Thank you so much. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Ray is right. Brandon was right to some degree, even though Brandon tried to sit up there and sound like an intellectual. Just get to your point, bro. Other phone calls were waiting. Got a lot of phone calls to still get to. Rob Ninkovich for the New England Patriots is coming on 15 minutes past hour number 2. Plus, we got a lot more stuff to get into. Some NFL stuff as well as some NBA. Stick around. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show, continuing on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Phones we go. Right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Let's go to Marcus. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Marcus, good afternoon. Good morning.
How you doing, man?
I'm all right.
My thing is, I think Sarah's wrong, man. I think she's wrong because no matter what he says to her, that doesn't take away the fact, about it. That doesn't question his fatherhood. He's still a good father. He can still be a bad person, but why is his father still being questioned?
Whoa. You totally misconstrued what she's saying. What she said, what Sarah Spain said, she said nothing about him as a father. What she said is to sit up there and to excuse his behavior as a coach in AAU ball by leaning on the fact that he's a good father is a disservice to African-American fathers out there because we're acting like it's such a big deal that he's such a good father that should absolve him from everything else. That's what she's saying. She's not saying he wasn't a good father. She's not questioning that. What she's saying is, if you are a good father, what does that have to do with how you behave as the coach? Because all you're doing by saying he's such a good father is leaning on the fact that he's a good father to excuse his behavior outside of parenting. And that's where her point was being made.
Okay, roger that. I got thrown off because I heard a lot of people calling about black Americans and fathers this, fathers that. talking too much about fathers. I thought we was talking about you trying to throw them in one pot. So
no,
I was wrong on that one.
No, she was basically saying what I just said and essentially highlighting the fact that basically what we're trying to say is that African Americans have a real big time problem with fatherhood. And so because of that, when we run across an African American who does it, it's an aberration to the point where we want to applaud him for that we're absolving him from other things. My argument is there's plenty of good African American men who are great African American, who are great fathers as African Americans. That's number one. But number two, because that narrative has been put out there, she has a very valid point in highlighting the fact that that's the aberration that exists in the eyes of the public, and we need to eradicate that and deal with who LeVar Ball is outside of his parenting responsibilities. She's right about that.
Roger that. I understand. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Let's go to Dave in Cali. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Dave? How are you? Good afternoon. Good morning.
I'm good. I'm doing great. Great, Stephen. I just cannot understand why you would come on the air, and I understand your reason. However, I still have a hard time accepting the fact that you would say that you genuinely like LeVar Ball. Now, we can talk about all day about his great parenting skills, about how he motivated his kids to be great basketball players. However, he's crossed the line. He's crossed the line. He's shown his true colors. He's just a circus charlatan. He doesn't deserve your respect, admiration, or your words. Genuinely like him.
Well, you're entitled to that opinion, Dave, and I don't blame you.
Let me tell you something, Stephen, and I'm really upset because you have said on the air numerous times that you were raised by your four older sisters. And
four older sisters and my mother. And my mother.
Yes, sir. And your mother and your four older sisters. And then I'm very sorry that your younger brother passed. But the fact is, though, you should not give him that much credit. You give him too much admiration. He is not worthy.
Well, let me say this to you. Whoa. I heard you. Let me respond. You don't get to make that decision for me. You are entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. That's number one. Number two, my opinion about him is based on private conversations coupled with the fact that I met him. Number three, that was before I saw what he did to the official, how Adidas capitulated to him, and before I saw him pull his teams off the court not once but twice just because he was not satisfied with the officiating. What I said is that I genuinely like the guy based on my experience with him, but I can't condone this. I don't like it. He should be ashamed of himself, and he needs to be reeled in. Those were my words.
Let me tell you something, Stephen.
Did you just hear what I said? Did you just hear what I said?
And I agree. I accept that. But let me tell you one more thing. The fact of the matter is only you and another couple of people that can get in his ear and tell him, hey, listen, you need to lighten up, man. You need
I
to
have done that.
Some maturity.
I have done that with him. I have told him that.
But after you see that he pays no attention to someone like you still would say, I genuinely like him.
I don't dislike the man. I don't dislike the man because I think that half the time. First of all, let's take the referee out of the equation because there's no defending what he did. And there's no defending taking your ball and going home, figuratively speaking, for taking the kids off the court.
That's right.
All right, there's no defending those two things. Let's remove that stuff from the equation. Dave, what has he done other than be obnoxious, barring those two other things? Being obnoxious in an effort to bring attention to himself to sell his son, which he successfully has done thus far. What has he done?
That's a good argument. That's a good question. That's a good argument.
So what we don't like is what we've seen from him really over the last couple of weeks. Everything else was harmless until the last couple of weeks. Now it's a different problem.
You're right. He's a circus charlatan. He's always has been, but that's harmless. But these recent days is really he's gone over the top.
Well, he's gone over the top, and that can't be defended, and I haven't defended it. And I'm not going to defend it at all. But I'm saying you got people that hate on him because he was talking about I could beat Michael Jordan, I could beat Charles Barkley, and my son is better than Steph Curry. I mean, really? That's why you don't like somebody? Come on. Now, the other stuff is serious. That stuff is harmless. That's my position.
10%, for example, yesterday. You go all out to bash the Dallas Cowboys, and yet.
Oh, my God. Are you a Dallas Cowboy fan?
No, sir. I'm
okay,
not.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Well, go ahead.
The Rams are back. But the fact of the matter is,
that's funny, Dave. That's funny.
You can't do that.
That's funny.
You had You should speak that way about the Raiders. The Raiders have been pathetic for the last 15 years.
Oh, please.
They've been in
please.
the sewer.
Nobody's been worse than the Cowboys. 22 years, 2 playoff victories, walk around calling themselves America's team. The Raiders call themselves the Black Hole. We in the Black Hole. We got our own fan base. They don't walk around acting like they should represent the United States of America, that they're in the embodiment of the greatest nation in the world with their mediocre selves, with their obnoxious, nauseous, delusional fan base, the most delusional fan base in American history. The Raiders don't do that. That's the Cowboys. Goodbye, Dave. I appreciate your call. Now, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. There's no fan base more obnoxious, more delusional, worse than the Dallas Cowboy fans. They go 3-13. The season's over at 4 o'clock. And by 4:30, you know we're going to win the Super Bowl next year, right? Nobody's worse than Cowboy fans. Nobody. Period. Hour number 2 up next with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
Hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Here with you until the top of the hour over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, Sirius XM Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Some news to throw by you. For the second straight year, the Dallas Cowboys are facing a fine from the NFL under the league's remittance policy because of the number of suspended players they've had. The NFL is finalizing the 2017 remittance policy, but with the suspension of defensive end DeMontre Moore announced last week, the Cowboys have 3 players that have been sanctioned by the league this year alone. Defensive end David Irving will miss the first 4 games of the season for violating the performance-enhancing drug policy. Wide receiver Shaq Evans, who signed with the team in January, was suspended the first 4 games for violating the substance abuse policy, but was released shortly thereafter. He was also suspended 4 games. Even though Moore's suspension came as a result of an incident while he played with the Seattle Seahawks, the Cowboys are still penalized. And Evans also counts against the policy as well, even though he is not with the team. A year ago, the Cowboys were fined $500,000 for the suspensions of Rolando McClain, Randy Gregory, and DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence got 4 games, by the way. McClain was initially suspended for 10 games, but was given an indefinite suspension during last season. Gregory's suspension rose from 4 to 14 games last year, and he will also miss this season because of multiple violations of the substance abuse policy. According to the 2016 policy with 3 players suspended, the Cowboys would be on the hook for 25% of the base salary the players will lose because of their suspensions, which comes to roughly $91,000. 3 more Cowboys are possibly facing suspension as well: Ezekiel Elliott, Nolan Carroll, and Damian Wilson, which could bring the fine to $500,000, which is the max per the rules. With 4 more suspensions, the figure in 2016 policy rose to 33% of the suspended players' applicable proportion base salary for the games they miss. Unbelievable. Ezekiel Elliott, Nolan Carroll, Damian Wilson, David Irving, DeMontre Moore, Shaq Evans. And then you ain't even think about Randy Gregory's going to be out this year. Rolando McClain and DeMarcus Lawrence suffered last year. I mean, you got to be kidding me, but that's that. Getting to some football, let me say this. Everybody's been talking about the New England Patriots. I got to admit to you, I'm not sleeping on the Atlanta Falcons. I wish I could say the Jets. I wish I could say the Rams or the Chargers. I wish I could say, I don't wish I could say the 49ers. Don't care too much for them. But I kind of root for the Oakland Raiders. I like Derek Carr. I love Amari Cooper. Khalil Mack is the Mack daddy. But their defense outside of Khalil Mack, I mean, please don't get me started. Oakland Raiders might be the only decent team you have in the state of California. In New York, clearly it's the Giants. Because even though Brandon Marshall has absolutely positively no credibility whatsoever when it comes to complimenting one of his teammates, because he has no objectivity whatsoever, because, I mean, it's if they pass gas, he calls it perfume. He's that way with all of his teammates, especially his quarterbacks. His opinion don't count. But Brandon Marshall, being the good guy that he is, can also play. And he's essentially your tight end since you don't really have one if you're the New York Giants. You combine that with Odell Beckham Jr. and Sterling Shepard. I got news for you. Eli Manning's got some targets. That offensive line can protect him, still a question mark. But if they can protect him, you got at least one team in New York. We all know the Jets are going to be awful. There's no way in hell they're going to be relevant. But when I look at the biggest threat to the New England Patriots, who are clearly the favorites to win the Super Bowl, acquiring Brandon Cooks, still keeping Edelman and Amendola and Hogan and those boys, Tom Brady to your quarterback, Bill Belichick to your coach, come on. New England's going to be special. And they're going to be, in my opinion, the team to beat. But if there's one team that's going to have something to say about that, it's the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan is your MVP. He's your quarterback. Julio Jones is an absolute stud and widely considered the best in the game. Your running game with Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman was fantastic. No reason to believe anything will change right now. This defense was so young, they were like babies wet behind the ears, breath smelling like Similac. But from week 11, from the bye in week 11 through the NFC Championship games, the Falcons defense allowed more than 21 points only once. Not counting Kansas City, who had 28, but that was Eric Berry's pick six, returned for about 102 yards for a touchdown, the pick six. Falcons are young on defense. You got Desmond Trufant returning from his injury. You got nose tackle Dontari Poe. He's added to the equation. You saw what they did in the Green Bay in the NFC Championship game. You saw what they did to Seattle, even though Russell Wilson was hurt most of the year. I got to tell you, I look at Atlanta, and I'm trying to figure out why they shouldn't be the favorites to win it all. They should be the Super Bowl champions now. But Quinn and the crew folded by continuously running the football. I'm just saying, anything's possible. Something to entertain and consider. I'm here to tell you that right now. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Back to the phones we go. Let's go to my man Mike in Denver. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, big baby? How are you, man?
How you doing, man?
Talk to me, bro.
I'm doing great. Sorry for yesterday, man. I was driving to go see Fed in the phone. So
don't worry about it.
Hello.
Yeah, tell your brother I'm still praying for him, man. Go ahead.
I know you. Yeah, I was just wanting to comment on, the LeVar Ball thing. Man, we just got to stop, buying into, everything he do. Let him go ahead and do what he do. But the lady Sarah Spain, she did have a good point yesterday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because you're raising your sons good, that don't mean you get to do what you want to do. And that's what the people who follow him believe. Just because he got 3 sons that's, playing ball, he can get to do what he want to do. And like you said, that ain't the case. You can't do that in this world. Not today, you can't.
Yeah. No question. No question about it. By the way, there's a quote that's out here. It's Michael Jordan spoke on the record. He finally responded to LeVar Ball's assertion that he could beat Jordan with one-on-one. Jordan was on the Really Big Show on ESPN 850 WKNR in Cleveland on Tuesday. I think Ball was on the show. He said, I think it's just entertainment. Look at everybody, man. Everybody used to say, I think Wilt Chamberlain is better than Shaq. I think Oscar Robertson is better than LeBron. Now the story is LeVar is better than Michael Jordan. Come on. I didn't even play basketball in the pros, and they're talking about me and Michael Jordan. That's what I'm talking about. He tells me he can beat because Michael Jordan said he could beat him with one leg.
Exactly. Yes. I just heard that when you went to break the last segment, they just heard it on ESPN.
That's right.
But that's about time. Michael Jordan needed to say that because that'll stop a lot of the rhetoric. You know what I mean?
Shut it
but
down.
Look here, man. You have a good day. I like enjoying listening to you more than I talk to you. But, man, you're doing your thing. And then one more quick thing before I go.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, yesterday and today, man, you were so flowery on First Take, man. Stop it, man.
I was so what?
You were so fly. Your outfit, man. Stop it, man.
Didn't I look smooth? The gray suit was looking smooth, if I should say so myself, bro. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Holler to the ball, man.
Appreciate you, bro. Let's go to James in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, James. How are you?
Stephen A., I love you. I like you. But when did LeVar Ball become the spokesman for how black men raise their families? First. Second, really,
Lord.
it's summertime. It's summertime. You guys are hypocrites. Some of you guys are hopping on LeVar Ball to keep your name relevant. The Dodgers about to get cracking. The NFL about to get going.
All right. Stop right there. Let me respond. My man, if you're going to call up here getting on me, could you at least be accurate? Nobody was talking about LeVar Ball as a father. Sarah Spain made the comment that people bring up the fact that he's a good father to absolve him of what he does wrong, coaching in the AAU competition, getting female officials removed, and things of that nature. No one said anything. Nobody said anything negative about him being a father. They were saying just because he's a good father doesn't mean you get to be absolved from everything else you've done.
True.
Nobody said anything. So why would you call up here to get on me about something I never said?
Everything this man do is news cover. He's not running America. It's not important. If it's not, look, take the NFL advice. You said they blackballed Kaepernick. Do the same with him. Y'all don't got to say nothing about what he's doing.
So you an editor now. So instead of calling up to make your point, you want to call and tell us what we should talk about. So what you want to talk about, James? You want to talk about your Dodgers?
Well, hey,
Are you a Dodgers fan? Are you a Dodgers fan?
I'm happy to see him getting.
Are you a Dodgers fan? Yes or no? Answer the question.
Yes, sir.
You're a Dodgers fan? When y'all gonna win another damn World Series? It's been since 1988.
And I was 13 then.
Don't give me that. So now that I'm talking about something you want to talk about, you gonna give me the excuse? Well, you were 13 then. That's the best you got?
Don't change the narrative, Steven. Don't change.
I'm not changing the narrative.
You good at that. You good at that.
I'm not changing the narrative. I'm sticking to the narrative. I'm sticking to it.
I think people are really distracted thinking LeVar Ball is affecting all these adults' feelings and emotions. Like,
okay.
What the hell is that?
Well, evidently he's affecting yours because you got an emotion and a reaction to it.
Yeah, but I'm saying, Steve.
You do have an emotion and reaction to it, James.
Y'all jumping on him. He pulled his team off. There's plenty of other coaches done it.
Let me ask you a question. They wrong too. They wrong too. James, you don't have a problem with a guy that's pulling the team off the court because he don't like officiating. Let me ask you this, James, because I know you watch sports. Do you know of any athlete, high school, college, pros, any athlete ever that has never been exposed to bad officiating? Ever?
No.
And do they pull themselves off the court?
But he's not beholden to the refs.
That's not what I asked you. Don't answer my question with that. Answer the question. Do you know of anybody? Is it right in your mind to pull a team off the court because you don't like the officiating? Yes or no?
Depends on the circumstance.
Bye, man. Have a nice day. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. There is no excuse to pull a team off the court because you don't like the officiating. No excuse. Nobody gets to do that. Nobody gets to do that. 866-729-ESPN. We'll get back to your phone calls in a little bit, but not before we have two-time Super Bowl champion, linebacker Rob Ninkovich of the New England Patriots. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He just retired, but he's still showing up to the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. It is my honor and privilege to have my next guest, defensive player for the reigning, defending Super Bowl champions, but no more because he has retired. I'm talking about the one and only Rob Ninkovich. He's here with yours truly right here on the ESPN Radio. What's going on, Rob? How are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm not sore today. I feel great. I don't have that sore. I'm not on Advil right now where my knees hurt, my back hurts.
Now, listen, obviously football is arguably the most violent sport, know, in North America. I don't think there's any question about that, even though some would say boxing, but the way these guys run these days, I'm not even sure that's more violent than football. But when you talk about the aches and the pains, how real is that for you? 12 years in the NFL, age 33. How real and how much of an impact did that play on you making this decision to retire?
Well, like everyday life, I'm good. Like I wake up, I feel okay. Now, if I go run and squat and do everything that I need to do to play football, that's a different story. Mm-hmm. So I think as you get older, to train to be a football player is a lot different than going to work out to feel good. Mm-hmm. Like I don't need to put 400 pounds on my back and squat. Now,
right?
Like now, I can jump on a Stairmaster, get a good 20-minute, step in. I'm good. I've walked a little bit. I feel good. Do some arms, do some chest, beach body stuff, and then I'm good. But, as you age in this game, your knees start to feel it because it's not just it's not just the NFL. It's college. It's high school. And I didn't play before high school, so it was kind of that helped me out, I think, too. When you start at 8, 9, 10 years old, and then you play a long career in the NFL,
right?
It's every year you're working out. There's an off season. There's training. There's running. There's lifting, and then there's training camps. The season. It takes its toll. So for me personally, I feel great right now.
Was this your decision? Was it the wife's decision? Was it the kid's decision? If there's one element that superseded all else, what was it?
It was my decision, but because I don't think anyone can make the decision for you, because you'll have regret. In life, if you listen to other people, you'll regret, like, man, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have done it my way. Maybe I should have thought a little bit more about it before I just jumped into it. So for me, it was 5 months of just thinking about what is the best thing for me and my family. So you got to think about your kids, your wife, my mom, my dad, everyone who loves me, my sister, everyone who loves me. Is playing another year going to help my knees? Is it going to help my back? Is it going to help my neck? Is it going to help my head? What is it going to do for me that in 11 years of football, 2 Super Bowl rings, I don't already have?
We hear so many things about, just the specter of CTE. Obviously, that's permeated through the NFL culture. You've got a lot of players that have retired because of concerns about what their post-NFL life is going to be like, et cetera, et cetera. But when I think about you making this decision, I also think about the fact that you're sitting here today as a reigning, defending Super Bowl champion. Maybe the reigning Super Bowl champion, not a defending now that you retired, but reigning Super Bowl champion. Would it have been, or how much more difficult would it have been to retire had you lost that Super Bowl to Atlanta instead of coming back and beating them in such dramatic fashion the way you guys did?
I think it would have been extremely hard. The competitor in an athlete, the competitive nature of being an athlete, you never want to lose. You always want to win. You want to go out on top. You want to win football games. You want to have a sense of closure. So for me, it would have been hard. I think it would have been very hard. But at the same time, going out healthy on my terms is something I always wanted to do, because my rookie year, I tore my ACL. I had a bad knee injury to where my career was in limbo. It was close to being over before it even started. And at that point, I remember I was in an apartment in New Orleans. I was crying because I thought my career was over, and I told myself, if I can get back to football, I'm going to go out on my own terms, and I'm not going out like this. I'm not going out on crutches. I'm not going out with an ACL or IR. You see a lot of guys, and then because that right there, you go out on IR, you go out hurt.
Yep.
Do you ever see a guy that goes out and then just says, all right, I'm not going to try to get back? They have that mentality of, I'm an athlete, I'm not going out like this, I'm going to get myself back. I mean, you've seen Kobe. Yeah. He got hurt. He tried to come back. He was coming back. After every injury, he came back to get to where he could go out on his own.
That's right.
terms.
And then dropped 60 in his finale.
That's it. Now think about that finale versus an Achilles injury.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Makes sense. Makes total sense. Rob Ninkovich right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. You walking away from a team that's, by and large, considered the favorites to win it all again. You've got 2 Super Bowl rings. I see the ice. I see the glitter. But I'm thinking about Brandon Cooks getting acquired. I'm thinking about Chris Hogan still being up in there. Of course, you have the great Tom Brady. Rob Gronkowski Gronk is supposed to be healthy. Let's hope it stay that way. God bless him. This team, this Patriots team, seems more loaded now than I think it's been since 2007 when Randy Moss was there. How are you looking at this Patriots team, and how formidable are you guys going to be this year?
This team is stacked. I mean, they're across the board offensively. Just think about it. You have Julian, you have Cooks, who both of those guys, if they're in the slot, if you have 2 really fast, explosive guys that can run those short routes and get open, who do you put on them? And then you have Gronk, who can go vertical down the field. Who do you put on him? And then you have a vertical guy like Hogan who can be out on the outside and run vertical routes. So you have to make a choice. Where do we put our attention? Do you put your attention to Rob? Do you put your attention to Jules? Do you put your attention to Cooks? Do you put your attention to Chris? where do you go? And not to mention the backs that we have. So the backs in the backfield, you have guys that can catch and run out of the backfield. Dion, he can catch.
No question.
Mr. White, he can catch and run. We all saw that.
That's right.
So when you have guys like that can catch and run out of the backfield, they can run, they can throw the ball in the short areas of the field and score. They can get the ball down the field and score. I don't know what you do defensively to combat that. So on the flip side of that, they have to get through a season, which is very difficult to get through a football season. I know because I've done many of them, and it's not easy. And everyone that's a fan or hasn't played the game, it's easy for them to say, oh, they're going to be so good, they're going to be this, they're going to be that. But it's hard to get through the season, especially when you're coming off a Super Bowl win because you're the target. Everyone's got you circled. You're the champions. And on top of that, you've been doing it for so long. A lot of these other teams are measuring themselves accordingly because of where you're at. And if they can play you at a competitive level, they're going to be a better organization. So they're trying to do that every week.
Rob Ninkovich right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Before I let you get on out here, just a couple of quick questions. Tom Brady, I just don't know what to say about him anymore. I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. From a talent perspective, the greatest that I've ever seen, but I can't argue with 5 Super Bowl rings. I can't argue with Mr. Clutch that he has proven himself to be. I can't argue after witnessing him down by 25 and bringing y'all back in a Super Bowl for a championship. What's it, as you reflect on a career playing as Tom Brady's teammate, what do you walk away with?
When I talked about competitiveness, like being a competitor, that guy is the ultimate competitor. And, I mean, I don't care if it's playing little putt-putt games in the locker room. I mean, he's going to try and win it, and he's going to try and be the best, and that's just his nature. And being a teammate of his for 8 years, I can see why he is so successful and the best quarterback to ever play. His work ethic, there's nobody that works harder. I mean, he's going to be 40 years old, and he's doing sprints after practice. He's doing sprints before practice. He's getting worked on by Alex, who's his guy, his guru, that's keeping his muscles long and stretched out. And he's eating all this organically grown stuff in his backyard.
Are y'all sold on that? Are y'all sold on the Tom Brady diet and all of that stuff?
See,
Is it real?
The problem for me is I'm 265 and I can't lose 20 pounds and just I can't do it. I have to stay strong. If I was stretching and getting worked on all the time and didn't lift as much as I had to, I'd be getting thrown over the Gatorade table. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going against big dudes. That's the difference there. So I think he definitely, there's a method to the madness of his eating and his the way he takes care of himself. It works. And he's got a book out. He's got another one coming out on mentally how to win. Yep. And I think that goes a long way with being successful.
How much are you going to miss Bill Belichick?
I'm going to miss him a lot.
Because
it's not easy to play for Bill, and he says it every year. He says playing here is hard. We ask a lot of everybody, the time commitment, the work, the way that we go into meetings, the way we go into practice, everything that the Patriots organization does from the top down. It doesn't matter if you're upstairs, working in the ticketing department. They're working hard too, because it's just the whole organization. They're pushing everybody to be better. And I'm going to miss the satisfaction of being able to go out there and produce for my coach. And I think if you saw my retirement speech, that was emotional for me because it was almost like, like my father, I try to do the best that I can for my dad because he's proud of me and he loves me and he knows that I'm going to do my best for him. It's almost like that for my coach, for Bill. I want to go out on the field and I want to give my best for him. I want to produce. I want to win football games. And, I hope it was enough. So that was it.
Biggest threat to the New England Patriots. Very last question, real quick. Biggest threat in the entire NFL to the New England Patriots is whom or what?
Health.
Health.
I mean, that's football. Everybody can have a great roster with a lot of talent, but if you have something come up to where 3 of your guys are down, it doesn't matter. And that's not just one team. That's every
but you know
team.
what that means, right? Because you're basically what you're saying is if we're healthy, I'm going.
Well, I'm not saying it, but I'm saying if they're healthy.
If you're healthy, who's going to beat the Patriots? That's basically what you're saying, Rob.
If they're healthy, I don't know who can compete with the talent that they have.
I got you. Happy for you, man. All the best to you. I suspect I'll see you in this business in the near future.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm sampling. I'm sampling.
It's all right.
Just,
you can afford. When you got 2 rings, you can sample.
Yeah. I worked hard for the 11 years I had in the league. I got a little time. I want to go jump in a pool.
The wife wants you home on Sundays, man.
Well, not too much because I'll be doing dishes and making bottles.
Rob Ninkovich right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio, 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Talking to a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Know something about winning. You heard what he said about those Patriots, too. But then again, we already knew that, didn't we? More to Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. You know what? When it comes to our cars, one thing is almost certain. Something at some time is going to break down. And if your vehicle warranty is expired, one big repair can break your bank. There are auto protection plans out there, of course, but only one stands alone. That's Toco Warranty. With Toco, you don't pay upfront fees for service you may never use. Toco makes protecting your car easy with their pay-as-you-go plan. Just pay a small amount each month to keep the protection for as long as you like. With Toco, there is no long-term contract, no upfront fees, and you can cancel at any time. Get peace of mind, please, knowing you are protected with coverage plans on the engine, electrical, transmission, cooling system, drive axle, and more. Plus, enjoy the benefits of roadside assistance and paid rental car fees. Toco Special Concierge Service guides you through the entire process from sales to claims to customer service, all under one roof. So don't risk being grounded by auto repairs you can't afford. See if you qualify for Toco at 800-211-2884. That's 800-211-2884. That's 800-211-2884. Back to the phones we go. Thanks again to Rob Ninkovich, linebacker extraordinaire for the New England Patriots, retired after 11 years in the NFL, age 33 years of age, out of Purdue. He's got 2 Super Bowl championships. Told me this morning on First Take his favorite Super Bowl was he actually enjoyed beating Seattle more than he even enjoyed beating Atlanta. Again, back to the phones we go. Let's go to Zeke in New Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Zeke. Good afternoon.
What's up, Stephen A. Smith? I got a question about Kaepernick quick.
Yes, sir.
Do you think it was wrong for him to do that at his job? Like the workplace. He couldn't do it anywhere else.
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say it was wrong, Zeke. It's not a matter of it being wrong. I just think that the price that he had to that he ended up having to pay, where I personally believe he's being blackballed right now. I'm asking myself, was it worth it?
Well, do you think somebody in the NFL is saying well, don't sign him or don't talk to him, or
I think
owners, that's kind of like blackballing.
That's what I did say it was blackballing. That's what I believe. The reason I believe that, Zeke, is because it's not so much just him. I think the NFL owners who love their money are incredibly concerned about the ripple effect of a Colin Kaepernick. If others decided to join in and do that, and it becomes some sort of a movement per se, then it will compromise their bottom line. And if it compromises their bottom line, that's something that they're going to do everything they can to dissuade. And if all they have to do to dissuade it is making sure that they don't sign Colin Kaepernick to their squad, it's an easy decision to make for a dude that's 11-24 in his last 35 starts, can't complete 60% of his passes, hasn't been in the playoffs in about 3 to 4 years. It's an easy call for them to make.
Yeah, I just feel bad for the brother. So thank you, brother.
I feel bad for him, too, because even though I don't like the fact that he came across as a bit hypocritical when he talked about not voting, I don't think he deserves this. I do think he's being blackballed. I think it's very unfair to him. Let's go to Jeff in Brooklyn. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Jeff? Good afternoon.
Hey, how's it going, Stephen A?
Talk to me, bro.
I wanted to talk about basketball.
Go ahead.
I had a question for you. The whole Kyrie wanting to come to New York, is that being blocked by Melo for not wanting to go to Cleveland, or is that just what's going on?
Tough question. Here's why. We know that Melo would prefer to be in Houston than Cleveland at this juncture. But that may not be the only reason, because who's to say Cleveland would pull the trigger on that deal? Who's to say that Cleveland wants Melo thinking that LeBron is going to leave after next season? You know, because
Right,
Melo's 32 with debilitating health. He can still go, but his health is not what it used to be. Plus, he's 7 years older than Kyrie. And so when you look at it from that perspective, why should they take him on? That's the kind of thing they're thinking about right now, and that's what I think you can't ignore, bro.
Yo, I really appreciate that.
Thanks a lot,
One
man.
last point.
Go ahead,
I
real
didn't
quick.
really expect to talk about LeVar Ball because you're right. I can't defend any of his actions or what he did to that woman because no woman deserves that. But in a sense where your colleague made the statement in regards to black fathers, I feel like that was out of bounds because just recently, America has a history of white women.
Stop right there. What do you think Sarah Spain said?
Like she shouldn't. She's not in a position to be talking about.
No. Stop. Answer the question. What do you think she said? You can't say she's not in a position to say something, but you can't tell me what she said.
What she said was that our standards were too low in a sense for black fathers. We should have higher standards as black men.
Yeah, basically, that's what she said.
Right.
But do you understand the context in which she was saying that?
Absolutely, I understand the context, but I challenge you to challenge her why white women are being arrested for falsely accusing black men for rape when it's not even true. America has a history of black men being falsely accused by white women.
America also has a history of more than 85% of men who have accused of such things being found guilty of such things. So when you talk about so there's not this prevalence, there's not a prevalent of cases where that black men have been falsely accused. There are white men, there are black men, there are Latino men, there are men, period, who have been falsely accused, and we cannot deny that, and that's definitely an issue that deserves to be broached. But at the same time, it pales far in comparison to the amount of individuals who are accused of such things that end up being guilty. And in the case of Sarah Spain, I can't believe I have to come to a defense on this, but it is appropriate to do so. What she was saying is LeVar Ball may very well be a good father, but if we're willing to point to that to excuse other behaviors, then that's our problem. So what? He's a good dad. We can appreciate that. But what does that have to do with what's going on with him coaching an AAU squad? I find nothing inappropriate about that statement from Sarah Spain. Nothing.
I was only reason why I brought that up because that was something recently brought just 4 days ago. A young teenager in Texas was arrested for falsely accusing 3 black men, and I just felt like.
So you got one case, and that challenge that means that I should be challenged to ask Sarah Spain about a general question when in fact what she was pointing to, if anything, what she was saying is that excuse me, this situation, this narrative that's been put out there about black fathers may very well be false. And by the way, because it may be false, that's even more of an incentive to hold LeVar Ball accountable for stuff he does away from parenting because we know he's a good parent. I don't understand how that should warrant me to pose a question to her about white women accusing black men falsely of rape.
Thank you for speaking on our behalf because I am a father myself, and you spoke highly of us. And I want to thank you for that. So I don't want to take anything away from what you do because I believe you're a great father yourself. But at the same time, I just feel as if, it is something that should be addressed about LeVar Ball handling his business and not making us all seem to be as if we have
I got it.
standard about ourselves.
I got your point, and I hear where you're coming from, and you're not wrong in terms of what you want to highlight. But I also want to point out this. Rather than focus on the messenger, which in this case would be Sarah Spain, how about focusing on whether or not what she said is true? If what she said is true, who gives a damn what her ethnicity or gender is? If it's the truth, it's the truth. Your calls to close out the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Minutes left right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let's get back to the phones. Let's go to Moses. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Moses, go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A., long-time listener, man, first-time caller.
Thank you, man. Go ahead.
I was just had a question. What do you think about them Steelers? I'm a diehard Steelers fan. I know you like the Steelers, too.
I think their offense is high-powered. I think their defense, mainly their secondary, stinks, and I have no faith in them. They'll make the playoffs, and then they'll lose the minute they run in to New England. That's how I feel.
You don't think Artie Burns and
No.
other kid played pretty
Not against Tom Brady. Against a less experienced quarterback, yes. Against Tom Brady, no. I don't hold out hope for them.
I just think you're going to be surprised.
I hope so. I hope so. I'd be pleased. But I appreciate the call. James, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, James, go.
Yes, I was calling referring about the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep.
I agree with you, what you say, but I'm a huge Saints fan, and my biggest worry, besides our defense don't never show up, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How do you feel like they will be a threat?
I think they're coming. I think they picked up Deshaun Jackson. They drafted O.J. Howard out of Alabama, who was underutilized. As far as I'm concerned, Doug Martin is still back there. Jameis Winston is a winner. And they still got Mike Evans with Deshaun Jackson. Tampa Bay is coming. I think New Orleans in trouble. I see you finishing in last place, bro. I'm sorry, but your defense just stinks. Ken in Pasadena, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Ken.
Hey, Stephen, I just wanted to comment on that VAR ball issue.
Yeah, real quick, go ahead.
Excuses, okay? One, a brawl. We want to stop a brawl. I'm taking my team off the floor. That could happen because of bad officiating. Another thing, you could have parents running out on the floor trying to fight these officials. You just don't want to start a brawl. So we don't know why he took them off the floor, so we can't crucify this guy for taking his team off the floor, and we don't have why he took it off the floor. I mean, bad officiating happens all the time, and
bad officiating happens all the time. When do you see a coach take his team off the court?
Never. But we want to stop him from headbutting the official. We want to stop him from throwing a chair across the floor. It's a lot of stuff that could have happened other than taking the team off the floor.
And when those folks did that, they were excoriated and reprimanded.
Oh, yes, they were.
So what's wrong with doing it to him about this? It wasn't like they got away with it. They didn't get away with it,
not at all.
and you're not letting them get away with it.
Sarah Payne, one quick thing on Sarah Payne. I think that when we talk about him getting that official taken off the floor, we got to stop saying female official. I think we should just say official.
No, we got to say female official because that's why he had her removed. He didn't have the other officials removed. Even the official that gave him a technical, he didn't have him removed. He only had her removed. That's the problem. He only told her to stay in her lane. That's what he said. Now, he ultimately corrected himself by saying it had nothing to do with gender, so give him credit for that. But his initial response was her staying in her lane, her needing to be removed. That's what he said. Talk to y'all in 22 hours from now. Peace and love, everybody.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.